Councilman, it's good to see you again here.
Thanks for having me, Jason.
You said the other day, when it comes to data centers, especially in Fort Worth, a more robust conversation needs to happen. We've seen headlines across the state, North Texas, South Texas, West Texas. It seems like cities and counties are really just having trouble figuring out where data centers fit and how they fit into communities. Is that the case?
Definitely. I mean, I think why I said we need a more robust conversation is we are being inundated in the state of Texas with data centers. And so we in Fort Worth are looking at our land use, what that looks like, but we also have to balance quality of life with our residents. And so what I've asked the city manager is to look at our rules and regulations and what's happening across the country and make sure we can figure out what's right for Fort Worth and right for the citizens of Fort Worth.
Let me ask you about one of these. This is a planned development, Veal Ranch. We've seen the headlines from Fort Worth on this. Council has postponed approval of this until next month. The argument here is over whether this one should get a tax abatement, a tax rebate, whether it should get discount on its taxes.
Yes.
What are constituents saying?
Overwhelmingly, citizens I'm talking to, my residents, don't believe we should be giving tax abatements to major corporations like this.
What do you think?
I mean, I think we have to look at overall the project. We have a very robust economic development department at the City of Fort Worth and the Economic Development Partnership that's run by Robert Allen. And so I think we have to look at each individual project and what that brings to the table. So it's hard to do a one-size-fits-all depending on what the project is.
Let me ask about the numbers for this one in Veal Ranch here. Fort Worth would lose out on about $19 million in property taxes. That's the discount that's up for debate right here to give to this this company to build this data center. But eventually it could bring in, what, $47 million over the life of this agreement. Nobody wants to pay property taxes. You're looking at number one guy right here who hates paying property taxes.
Me either, I get it, me either.
But shouldn't businesses pay their fair share?
I think that's the conversation that we need to have of overall, is it creating the jobs? Is it creating the industry that we want in Fort Worth? And again, a one-size-fits-all approach probably doesn't work, that we eliminate all tax abatements. No. This industry, probably we need to have a real question with them, and maybe this but-for test. But for a tax abatement, will it come? And I think what we're seeing is they want to be in Texas, so maybe that's not the tax abatement that we need.
So is it going to be an up or down vote on May 12th? Is that what's going to happen with this?
It's scheduled now, May 12th, an up or down vote, and we'll see what happens.
Do you think there are votes to give this company the tax abatement?
I think there are questions that the company needs to answer and really be more transparent with the community. We will continue to have meetings with the community that as part of this process. And that's what I'm hearing. They want transparency, they want accountability, they want to understand the product that's going to be put near their homes, and I completely agree with that.
This is all kind of a big catch-22 for all of us. We all use social media, we all send and store pictures on our phones, and that's what happens in these data centers.
Yes, yes.
So it's kind of, NIMBY, no one wants it in their backyard, but they've got to happen somewhere. What's the best way you think to manage this going forward? I
think data centers are hard for people to see and understand that their own digital footprint that they use every day is using this capability. On a street or a road, you know if it's a good or a bad street or a road. This is something, if you're doing online banking or involved in the process at all, you're seeing that, you're using it. So I think that the industry has to do a better job of putting those two pieces and parts together for consumers. I don't think they're doing that right now. And really understanding that this is somewhat, it's been described to me as the industrial revolution of our time, that we are seeing changes happening so fast, but we also have to make sure that we're not hurting or destroying the quality of life of residents that might be located near them.
Data centers don't bring a bunch of jobs. These are massive buildings with a bunch of computer servers, lined up everywhere. Why is it worth it to give data centers a tax break, do you think? Whether it's the one in Veal Ranch or anywhere else. It's not like they're bringing in, 400 or 500 jobs where people are going to go out and, buy things and pay property taxes as well.
Yeah, I would say they bring a lot of construction jobs at the beginning. Temporary jobs, you are correct. Then I think this one is slated to have about 50 jobs. You're not really doing it for the jobs. You're doing it for the capacity that it brings in. I'd also say something that's not been fully explored is this is part of a national security infrastructure. When we're looking across the country, our next war is not going to be a bomb. It's going to be someone flicking a switch and shutting down our daily lives. And that's, I think, the conversation that's getting lost is a big piece of this.
When you were coming in here, you made a comment that I hadn't thought about before, but you said, regardless of whether abatements happen or not. If you have a data center, it's not going to have a bunch of people working there, but it is going to generate some type of taxes for the school districts.
Yes.
And it's not going to be putting kids in those schools, so that would be additional money for the school districts. That's a good point.
I think it's an important point to make sure that we are addressing and that people are understanding. This data center in general would put $20 million into the Fort Worth Independent School District without the kids to educate as part of that, because it's not homes, it's not someone's residence. So, and when we're talking about budget shortfalls, not only at the school districts and the city, this is an economic development driver that we have to look at. We just have to do it in the right way.
So is the school district all for this?
I haven't had a conversation with the school district about it, but I haven't had a conversation. Yeah.
Well, we've seen local Republican leaders all across the state, and red places like Fort Worth, Hood County, and then way out in West Texas raise question about data centers. The big fear is it's going to consume a lot of resources.
Yes.
Do you think the legislature is listening?
I think as of today, they were having a hearing to listen to developers and I think some residents about it. We have to get this right. I mean, we do have water shortages or problems that we are addressing. Electricity, we've had issues there. We have to get this right, and I hope they do. There is a such thing as local control, but when you're talking about regulatory agencies that are run by the state, there needs to be some oversight, I think, from them about what this looks like, what the process looks like, and overall just making sure that we are looking ahead as much as possible.
If you could get the legislature to do one thing when it comes to data centers here, what would you ask them to do in order to make it easier for cities and counties to regulate this?
I mean, I would say if they're going to put together a regulatory framework, let's do something that's easier for us to predict. If we have certain zoning categories that allow these by right, then let's talk about what that looks like, or let's take away that ability from us from the city where it is by right. I am in favor wholeheartedly of local control, but sometimes when you're dealing with major oversight from regulatory agencies, there has to be some coordination, and that's what I would ask for from the legislature, is to coordinate with cities overall and look at properties that we have. Fort Worth is only half developed out, 50%. We still have room to grow. So this will be a problem for us coming into the future. So give us some guidance, and at the same time, we have our open space initiative. We don't want to develop everything. So all of this has to play together to continue to deliver the quality of life that people expect.
And is the legislature going to listen, do you think?
I chair our Legislative Affairs Committee for the city. As you know, our mayor has very good relations down in Austin, and so I'm hopeful that that's the case. I think we can, in Fort Worth, bring a practical solution for them as part of this process to talk about what it means to be a fast-growing city, but also balancing everything that we need to balance.
Councilman, here's what strikes me about this whole thing. Texas being open for business, the governor loves bragging about every single company that comes here, how much money is coming into the state, and it's fantastic. We have the 7th largest economy in the world, which is huge.
Yeah, the Texas Miracle, as it's called. Right?
And it's been going on for 20-something years here, but I haven't seen another industry come to this state to face this much pushback.
Yeah.
Is Texas still open for business? Is Fort Worth still open for business?
Fort Worth is still open for business. I think, again, we have to do this the right way as we move forward. We do still have this Texas Miracle, the Fort Worth Miracle, that I'm honored to steward at this point. But I have to make sure that we do it, that it doesn't destroy quality of life, and that we continue to, the reasons people move to Fort Worth, that we still give them those reasons to move to Fort Worth.
And specifically, if you were telling the legislators, this is what we need, what would you say specifically what we need here?
I think that not only us, but developers and residents need predictability and this transparency and accountability. If there are, what's the water usage, what's the electricity usage, and having some, again, transparency into that process. Again, there are a lot of myths out there, and I think that there's stepping back for a second and pausing overall to look at the overall infrastructure to make sure that we aren't taxing the infrastructure to a point that if we do have another major incident, a weather incident, that people still have power to their houses, they still have water in a crisis. We just need to make sure that we are looking at all the pieces and parts of that before we overdevelop.
And on May 12th, do you think this might have enough votes, or are you not sure at this point?
I will say I'm going to continue to work with the developer, the overall master developer, as well as the data center developer to see what there is and work with my colleagues and continue to listen to residents of what that looks like. I haven't made my decision what I'm going to do at this point, but I'm hopeful that we come to terms, as you have to do in policy, and make sure everybody is as happy as possible.
If Texas continues to push back like we've seen all over the state, Do you think these data centers might pick up and go somewhere else? Might take their investment elsewhere? It's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money. I would say, Texas overall, as we've talked about, is a very business-friendly state. And we've been able to continue this Texas miracle for 20 plus years because people know that we can get things done in Fort Worth and in Texas overall. So what I would say to that is, let's again put some constraints around what that might look like.
Yeah.
But that's fair, and economic development can still happen, but also you have the quality of life that people expect.
And last thing I want to ask you, do you want to clear up any misnomers out there? There's a lot of false information, and I even asked you before we started here, what does this mean? What does that mean? What do you think people aren't getting when it comes to these data centers?
I think there's a lot of information out about legacy data centers. At least I can speak specifically the one that's being built, will be built in Fort Worth, that's in the west part of Fort Worth. They're using the latest technology in water, 10 to 15% of what legacy data centers use. Electricity now, because of SB6, you have to have a power delivery source on a substation on site. You can't even start building if you don't have that approval. And then from the noise that they work with the neighborhoods, and we were able to do that with this one. It's equivalent to a whisper sound. So you're going to hear highway traffic before you'll hear that. What I want is hope, and the industry needs to help with this. It's not all on local entities and municipalities to do this. Is really educate people about what's out there. You hear a lot about health concerns, but there is no data that we've seen that equates data centers being built to any specific health concerns. That might be the case, but there's nothing out there at this point. So just the misnomers as part of it. And then what we have to do all the time as as elected officials is balance, again, the economic development side versus the other quality of life, which I keep referring to. Are we hurting it as part of this process? Or are we putting in place a structure around that will see our city continue to give the quality of services that people come to expect from their taxpayer dollars.
And so the older ones, there aren't that many of the older ones out there. There are a number of them, but there aren't that many. Those are the ones that rely more on the water and electricity as opposed to the new ones.
Yeah, if you look at Loudoun County Virginia is probably one of the biggest that I've done as part of this research. They built a lot at the same time. And they were older systems. But in Fort Worth, we've had Meta for the last decade operating right next to neighborhoods. We hear no complaints about it. People actually, what it brings into our economy is a lot. It's the biggest taxpayer in Fort Worth. And
Meta is? Really?
And so as part of their process, yes. And so I think we have to have those honest conversations. Again, people want police and fire, and they want good roads and streets. There's only so much that actual taxpayer dollars from property taxes will cover, especially given all the constraints the legislature has put on us in recent years. So these are other income sources that we can continue to deliver high quality services to our residents. Again, we just have to balance it.
Councilman, good to see you. Thanks for the time.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.